Hello and welcome to another random comic vlog. After having seen my video on discussing about the differences between Marvel and DC's cinematic universe using trains, a friend of mine I was talking to asked me about if comic companies were rappers, who would they be? Yep, we're up for another strange RCV today, folks. So without further ado, let's hop into this zaniness. First, I'll go with the one I've already spoiled on Twitter, Marvel Comics. When it started up making great waves that it got mad props and loyal diehard fans and naysayers. They definitely have an ego that has led to a lot of stinkers in the last couple years. Their best stuff in said last couple years has been collaborations and crossovers. Saying that out loud, I may actually change my answer to Lil Wayne, but then I realized that Kanye West works even better, especially when we can actually further the parallel by saying that the role of Disney in this scenario is played by Kim Kardashian. Oh yeah, I went there. I do recommend that you listen to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It is actually probably one of the best mainstream rap albums ever, but I did like Yeezus and a couple songs off of Life of Pablo, so there's that. Now, DC Comics is actually the harder one to do because a friend of mine pointed out when I said Kanye was Marvel, it'd be because everyone says they hate him, but he's actually still amazing at what he does. That does summarize DC very, very well over the past 5 years. Well, the last 3 years. The first couple in the New 52 was very underwhelming. However, I'm actually going to say that DC is Jay-Z. ¿Por qué? Because everyone will come to the agreement that Jay-Z is one of the most prolific names in the rap game. However, he is actually fairly known right now for not exactly being at the top of said game. If I did cutaways, I'd cut to the whole Cake song and probably Rap Critics' reaction to it. Plus, he's matured since his debut, so we could also tack on that the 80s and 90s were when DC reached the peak, passing simply wanting dark and really gearing themselves onto a more mature reading level. Company-wise. Jay-Z's best album is The Blueprint, so definitely that'd be my album to suggest. But the Black Album is probably his most known for biggest album, and there's a good reason for that too. Just because I'm making this list randomly at the comics I see near me, next is Chapterhouse Comics. Chapterhouse is Canadian, so I'm going to just skip the snow jokes right now, but I do inform on them to you folks. Man, even the crickets won't acknowledge that joke, sorry. But in all seriousness, as an American, there's probably 2 Canadian rappers that make it into the public conscious. Snow and Drake. And neither of them embodies Chapterhouse. Instead, I'm tipping my hat to Chaos. I know most of you have no idea who I'm talking about, but Chaos is a Canadian rapper who has an old school sound while keeping it fresh and new. Which actually sums up Chapterhouse very well, I think. They both revel in the old while never feeling rusted in that matter. Album to suggest, Atlantis Hymns for Disco was the first album I heard from him a couple of years ago, and it's a good standard on it, but his latest album, Can't Fly Without Gravity, is a solid hopping on point too. So, Boom Studios is next on the block, but this is a tough nut to pick. See, Boom Studio does a lot of original stuff with a lean towards nostalgic licensed comics. Now, IDW, Dynamite, and a couple others on this list are also like that, but Boom Studios works the original creations best, so I'm going to give the comparison to Schaffer the Darklord. Who's Schaffer the Darklord? He's a nerdcore rapper who, while definitely being on the nerd scene, really uses it to play off his own comedic temperament and his own raps. However, like Boom Studios, he can drop some heavy stuff. His Sick Passenger album actually encapsulates exactly what I mean, especially the track Intervention, where, yeah, he only gets a verse and the chorus and some jump-ins, while the rest is filled out with people like Adam Warrock, MC Frontalot, Jesse Dangerously, and a few more on the main verses. It gives a dark topic a fun twist. So definitely check out Sick Passenger, but I was pointed to him by Criff for his Mark of the Beast album, which has probably my favorite song of his, Supervillain, or The Rapist. Either way, check him out if you don't know who he is. Image Comics is an even harder choice because it's such a different company than when it started content-wise. But then I think, who was hardcore in the 90s and slowly became more of a producer? I mean, that's basically what Image Comics has always been, just an umbrella publisher for creator-owned studios. They're the Wu-Tang Clan. I mean, come on. Both owned what the 90s were doing while playing to their own fields the best they could, and then as time went on, each Wu-Tang member went on their own way to basically become fantastic in their own right. And Image currently has a ton of phenomenal creators that knock it out of the park because of that freedom. Yes, you can say I'm cheating on this one, but bite me. Zenescope Entertainment has been a growing universe for a long time, though from what I've seen the majority of their work has been playing with fairy tales and folklore characters. So it'd have to be a producer who uses a lot of sample tracks, but is still good, and at it, criminally underrated. Wait, I know this one. DJ Shadow. Believe me, That confused look on your face, I understand. I only got introduced to this guy a few months ago by a friend bumping the Private Press album. He's damn good at producing and using the tracks he does sample to really push his own flow, just like Zenescope. Yes, I did cheat on this one because sort of like how Apocalyptico was, DJ Shadow just makes the beats, calling in other people to actually spit the rhymes, but still DJ Shadow and Zenescope need more love, damn it. Aftershock is Hopsin, flat out. Hopsin releases great single after great single, and Aftershock does the same. Hopsin can do hard, dark, and emotional, but turn around and make a fun, bouncy beat that you can't help but bob along with. Aftershock does that to a T. Just because Hopsin is probably the best high-profile indie rapper, and Aftershock is probably the best high-profile indie company, that's also a good comparison. Honestly, the best way I can explain this comparison is listen to Illmind of Hopsin's 4 through 8, and read the last 5 or so releases from Aftershock, and you will see what I mean. IDW is the Shizzy 6 seconds of comics. Now, I could have used someone like MC Chris or basically any other nerdcore rapper for the same reason I did with Boom, but then I started thinking about it. IDW takes the set licensed comics they do, like TMNT or Transformers, and makes it their own. The TMNT City Fall is a key example of this, and yes, it may be my favorite storyline from IDW's Turtles books. They take the Turtles license and run with it, making a hard-hitting saga and an emotional read to boot. Shizzy is technically nerdcore, but also has a fresh sound when it comes to the nerdcore scene, because he can throw in some emotion and heavy lyrics in what he does, while also having the bounce and fun to make Naru flow or Champion. It's a hell of a thing to see, and yes, his latest album, Animated, is definitely awesome and epic. I'm fairly split on Dark Horse Comics. See, they've been innovative and leaders in the comic book industry for a long time, with things like Boris the Bear, or their ungodly epic run with the Star Wars comic book license. So what rapper would give them justice? I mean, yes, now they're getting pushed back by the ease of self-publishers and other large names growing in the licensed comic scene, and that's why I'm going to say Dark Horse is DMX. If you've only been on a What's on the Radio follower of the rap genre, you'll see some good songs from DMX, but 90% of his discography is one you have to hear to see the true depth of what he does. I mean, songs like Who We Be or the Rough Rider Anthem work really well as a, yeah, this is his tone, but the overall scope throughout every album released makes DMX an absolute favorite rapper of mine. And Dark Horse is one of those comic companies that you need to wade into rather than just see what's getting spoon-fed to you by media. X's best album is It's Dark and Hell is Hot. Give that a listen. And finally, Dynamite Comics. This is the one that I'm having the biggest problem with. They have created some solid originals, but the bulk of their wheelhouse is taking pulp and other public domain characters and painting them in a fresh light, while never losing that root in the pulp age of heroes. So with that in mind, who would fit them best? Originally I was actually going to say epic rap battles of history, where their ability to take historical figures like John Lennon or Mozart or Shakespeare and make solid 21st century flows without making them merely just a costume. However, I'm actually going to go with a cheat on this one. Dynamite Entertainment is Falconshield the band's This Is War. This Is War is an epic, awesome collaboration that has been going on for a while now. I think This Is War 5, This Is Wordles, came out a couple weeks ago, and it is quite awesome. Why are they similar? Because Falconshield itself does a lot of different sort of songs and styles for video games, similar to Dynamite's overall feel, but when it comes to the epic collab and Dynamite, it doesn't just move characters in a great direction, but the best voices and the best writers take center stage to create something you can't stop wanting more of. Like I said, I know it's a cheat because Falconshield is more like Miracle of Sound, where it comes to whatever works for the song they'll do, but on a personal level, I keep needing to give light to This Is War in the same vein that I do with Dynamite Entertainment. And that's my oddly informative list on what comic companies would be were they rappers. Now, I know I brought up a lot of YouTube rappers, or somewhat obscure ones that I fudge guidelines on a bit, but honestly, if you haven't heard some of these people, then you need to do so right now. They're all up on Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes, and most definitely worth a listen. As always, if you disagree with me, I know there's a lot of bias when it comes to rappers and rap music in general, or if I left off a company, I know I missed Valiant and Oni Press, give me your suggestions on the comments below, or send me a tweet at Bradley Nephilim on Twitter, or a post at the Archivist Facebook page. And who knows, I may answer your questions, comments, and other things in an RCV at a later date. As always, I'm the Archivist, and stay gold, Inklings.